Welcome back to another episode of Jason's Bricks and 5, where I discuss LEGO content in videos of around 5 minutes. Well, today is May the 4th, or as many people say, Star Wars Day. I don't actually think of this as the Star Wars holiday. For me, that's Life Day. It's in November. It's a whole different story. But I understand that, the thought behind it. It's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, whatever. So May the 4th be with you. And for those of you that are Arrested Development fans, Happy Cinco de Cuatro. Anyways, I thought I would briefly talk about my Star Wars LEGO haul for this year, or more appropriately, I guess, the lack thereof. So there were a number of sets that were recently released. There was the Star Wars logo, there was the UCS Jango Fett ship, there was a number of other things. There's the new Andor set, the U-Wing, some other items. And in the past, I've always really saved most of my Star Wars purchases until May the 4th. Now, some of you may remember last year, the debacle we had there with the gifts with purchase, and, they told me only one per household, but it was really apparent it was really just a system glitch, and they didn't want to fix it, which is fine. That has actually very little to do with the reason I didn't buy anything. I did not go on right at midnight on, I think it was May 1st when the sales dropped, and I just was okay with it. There are a couple items that I do have some interest in, and I've thought about. I actually have looked over the last 3 or 4 days at the Jango Fett Slave 1, because I do have almost all of the recent UCS sets for the last number of years. I do really like the original UCS Slave 1. I'm sorry, this is the Jango Fett Fire Spray, whatever. It's a Slave 1, we know that. It's a good looking model. I think it would look good next to my other one, but ultimately, I told myself, I said, well, if I'm going to buy it, I need to buy it when I'm going to get all the gifts with purchase, maximize my value, etc. And now the keychain's gone. Come May the 4th, it's already gone. So probably less likely I'm going to get it. And now I'm just thinking, am I done with Star Wars? And I don't know that I'm going to say that. I will probably still occasionally get a Star Wars thing here or there, trying to figure that out. But I thought I'd kind of walk through, my mindset around Star Wars and really why they failed to get me to buy anything this year. So a little background, I grew up a Star Wars fan. I played with all the Kinder toys. Then when I had my son, he was born in '99. So around the time the Phantom Menace came out, then LEGO started producing sets. So as he started playing with LEGO, he got some early Star Wars sets. And, I used him as an excuse to buy them. So he loves this, is what I said, of course. So we have some of those old sets. And then, I don't know, last 6 or 7 years, I've kind of started accumulating some more, around Rogue One. I got almost all of those sets. Most of the solo sets, and then going on and forward. I've got a bunch, including the UCS sets. I've got the Millennium Falcon, I've got the Star Destroyer, I've got the AT-AT or AT-AT for newer generations, A-Wing, Snowspeeder, like I had mentioned earlier, the Slave 1. I've got the Death Star, I don't know if you can see it here, the Dollhouse version. I know there's a new $1,000 one coming out. I got Jabba's Sail Barge. I've got a whole bunch of sets. I have all of the helmets, or at least I did, until they've just come out with new ones. All of the dioramas, so on and so forth. So I have an extensive collection. You come into my house, right in the living room is where the UCS Millennium Falcon is on display. So people come in, that's what they're greeted with. And I love it. I've loved building a lot of these sets. I've got a lot of figs from all these sets. Some rare ones. So I have, I think, at least a respectable Star Wars collection, we'll just say. I grew up with Star Wars. I loved it. I enjoy, especially as I've gotten older, I look at the, episode 1, 2, and 3 more fondly, than maybe when they first came out. But irregardless, that brings us to where we're at today. So I did not buy anything. That doesn't mean I don't have LEGO sets. Recently I did buy the Onyx Cinder. I've got some of the, the Starship class. I've got the Mos Eisley This one I think I got for Christmas. So I still have sets I haven't built, and I probably will still build them. Maybe I'll build one today, who knows. But let's talk about, kind of the main reasons as I've thought about it, why I have not chosen to buy any sets. And just for context, I actually did place a rather large order on Bricklink yesterday. It was by far my largest parts order because I'm going to build some mocks. And they're not Star Wars related, and it's something I want to do. So it's not that I'm out of Lego, but I have recently found that I'm changing the way I think about it. And now we're going to talk quickly about Star Wars. So the first issue, I think, is the value. The value proposition with the Star Wars sets, I don't think is the same as the other lines that Lego offers. We've heard for a long time, oh, Lego's expensive. I mean, even when I was a kid, Lego was expensive. But it's a different level with the Star Wars sets. You hear a lot of people complain about, you get a $100 Harry Potter set and it comes with, I don't know, 8 or 10 figs. You get a $100 Star Wars set and it has 5 figs. This one here, this has 5 figs in the Onyx Cinder, and I think this was 140. I did pick it up on sale, but anyway. So the value, and it's been that way for a while, but it's just gotten harder as, we keep buying stuff, and, I question, is the value there? The next is the connection to the items, This one I like, the Tantive 4. I remember this, and when I was a kid, this was, one of the first things. Phantom Menace wasn't my favorite, but I had all the others, so I did get this one. But I'm looking at some of the other sets, that we've gotten recently, and I just, there's like the Young Jedi. Not that they can't make those are fine, those are for kids. But that's not something that's of interest to me, so I don't buy those. And I know other people that, for example, I film a podcast with Alex, and he has not been buying any of the UCS sets for a while. And I don't know if he ever will. He might buy the Death Star just to say he has the largest set, assuming the rumored one comes out. But we'll just assume it is. But other than that, the last number, the TIE Interceptor, no interest. Jabba Sail Barge, he had a little bit, didn't buy it, and he's probably not going to. The Land Speeder, nope. Jango Fett, nope. And I think we're seeing that more and more. People just aren't feeling that connection. And I think some of that has to do with the content that they're making. And it's funny I say that because, the Acolyte came out. It was not very good. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I think there was potential there. It was disappointing, frankly. Even Ahsoka, I found to be somewhat disappointing. And, I was excited to have a Thrawn figure come out. I was excited to see, some of these things. I didn't buy any of them because they were overpriced. Like that set that had Thrawn, it was like $50. It was essentially a diorama. And the value wasn't there. And I didn't really, I'll watch the new series or whatever. I watched the Clone Wars. I enjoyed that. The cartoon series, I enjoyed, some of the new content I've enjoyed, like Bad Batch. I did enjoy that. I have enjoyed Andor quite well, actually. And they've come out with, one set from each season. And the one that they've just come out with is a rebuild of something we've got from 2016, which I know some people missed out, and they're, for those that can get it, I'm happy for you. That's one of the items I might still pick up, but I'll probably just pick it up for the figs because I don't think the build is necessarily as good as the older one, and I have the older one. So, I guess that's the next thing, the content. I did enjoy the Skeleton Crew, so that's why I picked up the Onyx Cinder. I thought it was, it certainly was different, but it was kind of a cross between Goonies and Star Wars, and, it was designed for, that tween to teen audience, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I thought it was actually kind of refreshing. I enjoyed The Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2. After that, it came more about, I don't know, let's throw Lizzo in there and, just kind of some weird things that didn't seem to make sense. And and it wasn't so much about the story and making sure we had a good story that would be of interest. So, I did like that. I am enjoying Andor. Season 1 I really liked. Season 2, we haven't even seen the U-Wing yet, so I don't know, maybe it'll be in there, but I think we're maybe halfway through. But I do like that. The next issue is the quantity. There is so much Star Wars stuff they're coming out with, and I could buy a lot of this. I have disposable income, but okay, if I buy it all, where am I going to put it? I already have shelves that are full, and I've started taking some of my older sets down, so if I get something new, if I get the UCS Jango's Fire Spray Starship, whatever that is, where am I going to put it? I got to take something else down, and I don't know what I would take down. So that tends to be a problem. That's one of the things. So the line that I really enjoy, people that watch the channel know I really enjoy the Indiana Jones line. The nice thing about the Indiana Jones line is it's a set number of sets, and it's done. Like, I know they're never going to make another one. It was exciting when they were coming out with new sets. They came out with 3. It was supposed to be 4, but that's a whole different thing. I do find it disappointing we didn't get at least one Dial of Destiny set. I know some people really hated the show. It was not the best. It was better than the Crystal Skull. But I think it would have been fun to just at least get one set there. Something new. And it's probably done, and that's fine. So I know there's a set number of sets. I have all of them, originally, and they're open, but now I'm trying to get them all sealed. So it makes it a defined quantity. Now I've got to decide, okay, do I want to pay the price for some of these old sets? And, that kind of gives me the chance to kind of hunt for those bargains and those kinds of things. But, I think there is some, attractiveness to that. The last thing is around the cadence, how they are releasing these sets. So, they've always had play sets, ships and, little builds, UCS sets. And right now we kind of have typically gotten, 2 UCS sets a year. I'm glad it's not more than that. But even that is sometimes a little wonky because sometimes it's, like the Mos Eisley Cantina, which I have, it's put away. Or there was, what else was there? There was the Cloud City. So we would get more of a play style set, and then for a number of years we don't. And so I don't know that I like that. Like, we've seen, for example, the helmets. They produced those for, I want to say it was 2 years, and then they said, okay, we're done. We didn't get a new helmet last year. We're now doing dioramas. So they started dioramas in the Starship series. Okay, cool. I have a shelf. I've got all my helmets. Well, now all of a sudden we've got 3 new helmets that have come out. Okay, well, so now we're back on helmets, and the rumor is we're not doing dioramas, which that's fine, but I think the inconsistency makes it hard because, if I dedicate space on a shelf and then they come out with more things, and now do I get a new shelf? What do I do? So, that was part of my thought initially. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just get UCS sets and dioramas and MIDI scale. Well, but now there's helmets. So, okay, well, do I got to get those? So a lot of these things, ultimately, I've just chosen to not buy anything. I'm not saying I'm not going to buy anything else. I do like the K2SO build that's coming out, so maybe I'll buy that one. Like I said, I might buy the Andor build, but like I said, more for the figs. I don't think the ship is actually great. I mean, it's not horrible, but I don't like the slim down look, and so I don't know what I'd do with it. And I don't know, we'll see what other content they come out with. I know there's some new things in the works, and if they come out and they're bad, well, I'm not going to be excited to buy those. And it has nothing to do with helmet holes or print or whatever. I know some people have issues with that. That's a whole different thing. If you don't want to buy it because of that, fine, don't buy it. I don't fault anyone. Everyone has their own money. They make their own decisions, and there you go. So those are my thoughts on Star Wars, why I bought nothing. And not to say I didn't buy anything, because I spent more on my Bricklink orders than if I had bought the Jango Fett. But I'm excited because I have some mocks that I want to build, and that's kind of been rejuvenating, some of the thoughts of the things I want to do. So that will be coming out. We can see that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Did you pick up a bunch of Star Wars stuff? Do you feel the same way? Or maybe I'm up in the night, I don't think so, because if you look at the way that it worked out this year, it wasn't double points on everything. Some things were 4 times, some things were double, some things were just, you don't get any bonus. And then there were a few discounts. Well, a couple days in, they've offered more discounts on items. So that tells me things aren't selling like they had hoped or expected. So, I don't think I'm the only one, but maybe it's just because I didn't buy and they did it. So that is going to do it for this episode of Jason's Bricks and 5. Yes, I know this is more than 5, but those are my thoughts on Star Wars and why, for me, I think I'm kind of at a point where I'm starting to mostly move on from Star Wars. I've thought about selling some of my sets, and that's nothing I would have considered before, but who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind tomorrow. So that is going to do it. Thanks for watching this episode, and we'll see you next time. Happy building!